Today I'm in sunny Oxford. It's a beautiful day here. I'm currently sitting under a tree just next to Merton Field, and I thought I'd read to you an extract from my new book, 18. This is a book which explores the lives of 18 figures who have played their part in British history and what they were doing at 18. And one of these is the young C.S. Lewis, who was born in Belfast and then came over here to Oxford to study, and he spent most of his life here in Oxford. This passage has never been read aloud to anyone before, so this is its official premiere, and I'm delighted that you can join me. It's a few pages long, so I hope you're sitting comfortably. Enjoy! Chapter 14. In the summer term of 1917, Oxford University gained a new student. He had won a scholarship to University College and was in the books as 18 years of age and named Clive Staples Lewis, though everyone called him Jack. "It's been that way since I was 4 years old," young C.S. Lewis might have explained to the porter as he processed the papers. "My dog Jaxie was killed by a car, and I took his name, refusing to answer to any other." For hundreds of years, Oxford University had been at the forefront of learning, perhaps the most prestigious university in the world. Teaching existed at Oxford in some form from 1096, and the first colleges, University, Balliol and Merton, were established between 1249 and 1264. That's 2 centuries before Machu Picchu was built, and 500 years before US independence. So what did Jack think on first impression as he got his bearings in this new postcard-perfect city? Did he climb up the grassy mound, the remains of the medieval motte of Oxford Castle? As he strolled along Broad Street, did he notice the memorial to the Protestant martyrs, Ridley and Latimer, who were burnt at the stake at that very spot in 1555? Leaning on the railings, what did Jack think of the Radcliffe Camera? A neat circular building, perfectly, precisely formed, like an enormous navigational instrument, its honey stone glowing in the sunshine. Jack was a born scholar and a vociferous reader. Had he gone on Mastermind, his specialist subject would be Anglo-Saxon and Norse literature. He could be intimidating, the kind of person whose conversation will be peppered with, "It reminds me of a completely obscure writer who died 70 years ago." Or, "The other day, I was reading about an incredibly specific reference to an ancient culture," leaving you replying, "I'm not sure I've read that one actually," and rather questioning your intellect. But there was not much chance for intellectual intimidation when Jack arrived at Oxford. This was supposed to be the city of dreaming spires and sleepy tolling bells. But the dream had been rudely interrupted. Oxford was not quite herself. Though the university was still running, many of the libraries were empty, the books unopened and gathering dust. There was another matter to attend to. The city, like the rest of Britain, was 3 years in to a terrible war. It had all kicked off on the 28th of June 1914, when the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated in Sarajevo. This provoked an international crisis, culminating in the outbreak of the First World War. By the end of the year, 1 million British men had enlisted. Oxford University was emptied. By Jack's arrival in 1917, only 15% of the pre-war students were in residence. Oriel College, which had been home to 133 undergraduates, had only 10 still in place. Despite this, the city was busier than ever. For the first time since the 1640s, when King Charles I made Oxford his HQ during the Civil War, the city became a military camp. Battalions billeted in colleges, soldiers smoked on every street corner, trucks jammed up medieval lanes, the stamp of heeled boots echoed down every cobbled street. Somerville College became a hospital for officers. It was here that the poet Siegfried Sassoon was sent to recover, lying in a little white-walled room, looking through the window onto a college lawn. Had Jack wandered into the examination schools, past the sweeping Italian marble staircases, he would have stumbled into an enormous space with panelled walls and ornate white plasterwork. Instead of rows of examination desks with students scribbling down answers, there were hundreds of beds, each with a young man fresh from the Western Front. Their bodies were mangled, their minds traumatized. Jack arrived as a student, finally fulfilling his greatest passion for academic study. But finding the university deserted of both students and dons and operating at the lowest levels, Jack threw himself behind the war effort. On the 26th of September 1917, he commissioned out of the Officer Training Corps. Instead of poring through texts, he polished boots. Instead of discussing Celtic runes, he barked orders. This was no longer Jack, the undergrad, but 2nd Lieutenant Lewis, 3rd Somerset Light Infantry. Now that gives you a sense of Jack when he arrived at Oxford. Of course, in his late teens, he was sent to France. He was at the Somme and he saw the horrors of the trenches. He saw, this is his words, the horribly smashed men still moving like half-crushed beetles. He watched men's stomachs fall out on their knees, and the moment a life was taken, the shouting faces, while they shouted, freeze into black, bony masks. So quite something in his teenage years to experience. And it must have been equally strange when Jack returned here to Oxford. Of the 5 young men Jack became friends with while attending the Officer Training Corps at Keble College, he was the only one to survive the war. I have lost my brothers and my love and all. Nothing is left but me. So it's fascinating to look at Jack's young life, this young man who went on to become the famous writer C.S. Lewis, author of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. I hope you enjoyed listening to that extract. If you'd like to order a copy, I'd be so grateful. There are links in my bio. I really hope you enjoy it. I hope it inspires you to come and visit such beautiful places as Oxford, especially in the summertime. And I hope you're inspired to find out more about the wonderful life of C.S. Lewis.